I really had to go back and I read some articles about marriage and itself. How did marriage even start? Like how, as a thing,
Yeah.
right? Because and so I was like doing some reading and some researching, and I was like, huh, let me look back and see.
Yeah, I'm curious to
And
know what you found out. I have
you
some theories
know,
myself, but what did you find out?
the marriage as a thing is really not that old.
Really
The article I read was saying is about 4,000 years old
interesting.
as a thing,
As a thing, as an
right?
institution.
As
All
an
right.
institution.
Before then, it was just
Before then, it was
come on, let's go.
but you just had kind of communities that everybody just kind of got together and formed families, and whatever the case may be. But when they started to propose marriage, it wasn't for love, and it had nothing to do with religion.
Interesting. So, not for love, not for religion. What was marriage for?
So
Go.
I wrote it down from the article that I was reading. Its primary purpose
Mm-hmm.
was to bind a woman to a man to guarantee his children were legitimately his.
Paternity.
And so a woman therefore became a man's property.
Uh-huh.
Because see, the way that it was presented and the way that I understood it was that this wasn't really transactional. It was more, okay, she's mine now. These are my kids. And so here we go.
All right, well, let me see if I can.
Are you messing up the hair?
No, I'm sorry. I was looking for the barcode so I can scan. I want to make sure
Right,
my property is nice and tagged.
so like
That's why my card-
property, like, and I do feel
That's
honestly like men nowadays do kind of not see women as property, but you kind of like, this is mine, I ain't sharing.
Yeah, I mean,
this is mine.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, that's not really going to go anywhere. I think.
See, so I mean, it's almost it kind of, it does kind of go back to this point of men kind of see. I don't know if you guys, I wouldn't say you guys see women as property per se, but
I think honestly, let's just keep it 100. I think it's just not socially acceptable to say stuff like that. It's not socially acceptable to believe stuff like that kind of out loud.
yeah,
but
that's not going to sit well with too many people.
What we believe in our minds and what we'll say out loud, a lot of the time is two different things.
Right.
In this podcast, we try to keep it a buck with you guys, and we try to keep it a buck with ourselves.
Yeah.
And if I'm keeping it a buck, yeah, there's a possessiveness that I absolutely have. And I think it's necessary to have. Because if I was like, oh, yeah, whatever, you can, whatever. That also just doesn't feel good, does it? It's something about that feels like, golly,
yeah. Well, I think that's two extremes, but I get what you're saying.
I agree.
Yeah. And so the idea of church was introduced to show men how to have a greater respect for their wives. Love apparently came after. So it was like this institution of marriage to bind the woman to the man. Then they introduced church to kind of have the blessings of God and teach men how to respect their wives a little better. And then love came after. This woman, Marilyn Yalom, who is a historian and an author, believes that romantic love gave women leverage in what was known to be a pragmatic situation. I quote her.
Wow.
That's how love came into the marriage.
Okay.
But majority of the time, people didn't marry for love. Now, love grew over time because you're spending time with this person. Eventually, I guess you respect this person, and then you like the person, and then maybe that like turns to love. And so it grew, but it didn't start there.
Wow.
And it didn't start there. And I believe a lot of those marriages lasted a lot longer, but maybe because it was under obligation initially.
I don't like the word obligation in that way, but I do like the word duty. Because a lot
practical reasons.
Yes, because there's a practicality behind it.
Yeah, okay.
And even if it's not duty to your spouse in that way, it might be duty to your family. Maybe as the only daughter in the family, you were able to marry up, and by that way elevate the entire family to a higher level. Maybe the duty was to your family, and that's why you went through with the marriage in that way. Still not for love, and still a hell of a thing to do, a hell of a sacrifice to make, but that did happen.